So yeah, you're probably wondering, where in the world is that Diablo 4 promised post-beta deep dive from Blizzard? Well, I have an actual official update about that one today, plus new questions about PvP and PC issues answered by the dev team, and we've got an even further in-depth clarification about legendary weapons and gear in the full version of the game. Also, some fans noticed that there's some things missing or that have changed since the quarterly update from December 2020. Will these features make it into the game or not? And don't miss out on the PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch giveaway. You can find out more about that for my subscribers only in the pinned comment down below. So Robbie, please do tell me more about this post-beta deep dive we're getting from Blizzard. Here is the official word from Rod Ferguson himself. He says this: we're going through all of your feedback. We'll have an update in a couple of weeks about what we've heard and what we're addressing. Thanks for helping to test the beta and your patience as we work through the issues. So yeah, it's going to be a couple of weeks. They really don't want to rush this out. They want to make sure, of course, that they make the right decisions. And there's a lot of feedback to get through, of course, between YouTubers. There's a forum they have to get through, Twitter posts, all sorts of stuff that they have to dissect. They really want to make sure they make the right decisions for what could potentially be changing for the launch of the game. All right, let's get into further questions and replies from the dev team here. So this one is an interesting one. It says, about Diablo 4 beta on PC, I noticed that the black level of HDR is highly elevated and needs to be addressed. Also, you provide anything extra at graphics on PC from the beta at launch? What a great question. Some of you also noticed these issues. Adam Fletcher, the community manager of Diablo 4, says this: graphics engineers have some things for HDR prior to launch that aren't implemented that will address most of the issues we saw. We will have more details on PC graphics settings in a blog prior to launch. So yeah, as well as the deep dive, we're going to have something specific to PC as well. So it's good to note that they aren't neglecting the PC side of things, because again, in my video from yesterday, we heard from like Forbes that they had a better experience on console, at least according to their friends. So yeah, let me know how your experience has been if you got the chance to play the beta both on consoles versus PC. I'm kind of curious. Now, Leonardo goes on to ask this: also with PvP back, how does Blizzard see Diablo 4 fitting into the esports world, or not at all? Wondering, given equipment gear really plays a role, that is not a typical variable for other esports in the scene today. Great questions. Are we going to be seeing huge esports tournaments in the future? And Rod Ferguson goes on to say this: we have no plans to support esports. I don't know if that's a big deal to you at all, but for me, not so much whatsoever. Now, Jimmy Love goes on to say this: hopefully I'll be able to leave out of Eastgate when the full game releases, since it was still an issue during the open beta. I can sense the frustration. Adam Fletcher goes on to confirm that it was a common issue and it will be addressed. So hopefully eventually in time after launch, we won't be dealing with these invisible weird walls that we're feeling like we're pushing through just to get out of town, because many times I couldn't get out of town at all. I had to actually fast travel to another waypoint just to even move on. So that was definitely an issue. Now, Joseph Papaya had some things to say about legendary powers existing beyond our beta experience, and there was good indication that there's going to be a lot more stuff here. Now, I'm going to get into the reply. It goes into further in-depth details than what we saw yesterday, so stay with me here. Some of you missed this. It says, I don't think folks realize how many more legendary powers exist beyond what was on display during the Diablo 4 beta. There is a lot of bizarre, exciting, and totally balanced legendaries to discover when the game goes live in June. We'll see if they're balanced. It's always a thing. Find out for ourselves. Now, of course, we have a reply here. It says, slightly confused. Do you mean that the beta didn't show us the other legendary powers on the list, or that we just didn't get access to them because they weren't set to have a drop rate in the beta, but they still existed in the aspect list? Great question. Joseph follows up by saying this: the Codex of Power contains less than half of all the possible legendary powers that can be found in Diablo 4. Plenty more legendary powers can be found later in the game experience. So there's a lot of cool stuff apparently that we have not even seen or heard about or discovered, which honestly does get me excited. I'm curious to see what awaits us. All right, so moving on, someone noticed something interesting. What seems to be like missing features from the beta from this right here. Check it out. It says beta differences from the Diablo 4 quarterly update December 2020. The December 2020 quarterly update was the one piece of dev insights that had me the most hyped for the design direction of the game. All item tiers were relevant, skills had upgrades that would trigger attribute breakpoints, and so much more. After playing the beta, I feel like some of these were scrapped. I'm not really sure because I didn't try to account for all the differences. I'm wondering if others saw differences, and also wondering if the devs have made any statements about departures from these original ideas, especially the stat breakpoints on skills. That was the most exciting feature by far. I was told by one person on this Reddit that those are on the Paragon boards, but others have disputed that, so I'm not sure what to believe. All right, so let's get into this further, shall we? So here's some examples of what was displayed during the quarterly update in 2020, and this has changed quite a bit. So yeah, it used to be at like 140 willpower, as you could see. Ice Blades deal additional damage to frozen targets. So if you hit a certain requirement in your attributes, it would allow you to unlock further upgrades for specific skills. Here is another example for whirlwind upgrades. Now, the system is not in place right now, and it appears that a lot of it has moved into the Paragon boards. And that makes sense for the end game. And there's a lot of redundancy here. I think that was the overall issue, because already with our skill tree, invest into passives a lot, actually. And we upgrade it like 5 out of 5. In some cases, you can kind of go in overdrive mode with some of these skills, depending on the gear you have, and go 6 out of 5 and even 7 out of 5 in certain cases. But let's get into some replies here, shall we? So we have the real Gooey, who says, a lot of hate on the Paragon boards and skill levels being just passive upgrades, but these breakpoints look more like automatic givens at certain gear levels. It's not like we have limited attributes that we distribute ourselves that would do meaningful decisions in the long run. Many might have just been converted into the branching skills and passives we see in the tree currently. It's possible they play tested this and found that while the concept might have been interesting, maybe it conflicted with other design themes, or maybe they found that in practice it didn't feel good or impactful. And I'm wondering if some of this stuff also, I'm kind of curious if it moved into some of the gear systems, into the weapons themselves. I hate to say it, as kind of like a filler content, you know, but that's what I'm kind of thinking as well. Now, Professor Knox goes on to say this right here. Yep, those breakpoints were done very poorly. They're not only binary, which can be fine, but they create a pattern whereby you can't mix and match at all, as you're incentivized to go all in one way or the other. Under their model, if Whirlwind is always a strength dex build, then you just have a system that forces the player's hand. Not only do Whirlwind barbs, end up having to go strength dex, but they also likely only ever take other skills that are 100% strength dex. It was trying to capture the breakpoints of Diablo 2, but failed to realize how it was just replicating the all-in stat dump problem / shrug. So that's also an excellent point right there. I think they wanted more freedom in the skill tree, and for me it makes a lot more sense to do it the way they're doing it now with the Paragon board, so that I suppose you're not constantly respecing, and I think it would make the game a little bit more difficult with building your character to become, you know, godlike or OP. All right, so this is really fascinating. Did you know this right here? It says, do you realize the Necro minion abilities weren't passive, right? So from the number of people I see complaining about the Necromancer needing hotbar buttons for their skeletons and golem, I honestly have to ask, you did realize that these were not passive abilities and that they were both quite important in your rotations, right? Skeletons, when you were full, would raise a skeleton priest to heal and buff the damage of your skellies. Golem was the taunt button to get stuff to target your meat shield instead of you or the skellies. These were both important active use abilities that any minion mancer should want to be using, not complaining about the waste of hotbar space. Yeah, I had a tough time with that as well, that there wasn't enough space on my hotbar to even like have both skellies and golem running at the same time. Of course, you can go with that sort of build, but I myself want either or. But yeah, great point, because I eventually discovered this myself. I was like, oh, wait a second. These are actually active abilities, and I really, really began to take note. So I thought I would highlight that here. I think it would help you all out. All right, so let's get into your top comments from my previous video. Remember to leave a comment down below, and also check out that PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch giveaway in the pinned comment down below to learn more for my subscribers only. So what was my most recent video about? It's about this one right here. Only 66.6 days left. Devs give new updates on what's changing and what's next. Check it out if you missed it. So let's get into your replies, shall we? So we have this one from MJ who says, a better look for the Necro skeletons definitely sounds like something they would sell as a cosmetic. Oh boy, a very good point. Maybe that is the devious tactic here. Dear God. Yeah, I just think it would be cool to have a bit more options for the skellies, though. Man, they're probably going to put it on the battle pass. You're probably right about that one. So, okay, so we have this one right here. Custom Future says this. Beta was great, and I had so much fun. Super excited for its release in June. Dude, it's the one game I constantly think about. I'm having the Diablo 4 beta withdrawals big time. I just want to hop in and upgrade my Necro even more. Dustin goes on to say this. Great vid. I agree with the unpopular opinion. I haven't tried Necro or Sorcerer, but from what I hear, they made the game too easy. I played Druid only and had a blast experimenting with my builds and struggling through some of it. The parts where I struggled made me focus more on refining my build, choosing my gear, and adjusting my play. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about this. I do want a challenge, though. I am going to say that. And I felt like the Necro was way too OP, practically godlike. I barely am healing, as you can see right here. I hardly have to use any of my potions. Like, what's the point of getting the 5 out of 5 potions, getting the renown, doing the work? You know what I mean? It's kind of strange. There is definitely a balancing issue. My biggest worry is that they do begin nerfing stuff, Necro and the Sorcerer, and people are like, I miss my OP Necro, you know? So I'm curious to see how people respond to potential nerfs in the future. Blizzard is kind of walking this tightrope when it comes to balancing in the future. Now, the Mushin says this. There were already legendary effects that affect evade in the beta. At least one for the rogue that made you drop stun grenades whenever you evade or use shadow step. Yeah, you know, I was playing with my twin bro Ryan. He was showcasing that to me. I'm like, oh my God, that is so cool. Dude, I cannot wait to go further in depth with the rogue in particular. So yeah, that is really, really cool that there's systems in place that actually affect your movement in some way. I hope it gets kind of even more insane or over the top as we go. So we'll see what they have in here. Now, Jake says the open beta was the first Diablo game I have ever touched, and I was shocked by how fun it was. The small amount of campaign and side missions we got were enjoyable. I know that some of the more experienced players probably have a ton of problems with the game and have way more complaints, but as a noob, I had a blast and have high hopes for the full launch. It's going to be a whole wait and see thing when it comes to the launch. You guys may remember how Diablo 3 launched. I'm hoping that they learned a lot from that. And of course, this recent beta experience. I was pretty impressed with how quickly they recovered the servers and got things up and running and working. Well, a launch is a launch. And I think we will all have to be a little bit patient on those first few days with this game, especially the first few days, until things kind of like mellow out with the servers. But it seems like they're battle tested, they're ready for launch, and it's going to be up to them to really make sure that everything goes smoothly. But thank you all so much for the comments and all the love and support on the recent Diablo 4 videos. I'm kind of shocked and blown away by that, by the way. So thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I genuinely hope that you guys have been enjoying the videos. I know I've been enjoying making them because I really, really have been enjoying playing this game. And I know it's rough not being able to just turn on your PC or console and be like, hey, I'm going to play some Diablo or open beta. Yeah, the withdrawals are very real. So hopefully these videos help you out in the meantime. But thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more. Have you guys covered on all things Diablo 4 and open world gaming goodness. And I will see you all next time. Take care.